And during night, I will let you share with me, okay?
Okay, everybody, it's 2:00, so we want to get started on this, so we're not here all night. This agenda, what did I do with the agenda?
I don't know what this means.
Okay, so Beth, could you take roll call, please?
Oh, yes, I guess I could, maybe. All right. Kathy Bachelor.
Here.
Candy English. Here. Beth Dingman. Here. Nellie Johnson.
Here.
Bart Hillier.
Here.
He's somewhere.
We saw him.
Just saw him.
Bart, where'd you go?
Steve Reynolds.
I'm not at liberty to reveal that.
Heather. Marge Garneau.
Here. She's here.
Deb
Okay,
Wallace.
check.
Here. Jody Walker. Here. Scott Summers.
Yep.
And that's it. So I don't think it's me. I think that's
That's me.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna turn my.
I usually do that
Just
before I
go
get
ahead.
here. If we could have everybody turn their cell phones off, that would probably help.
You can't keep those for yourself.
They're freshly made.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just turning off my phone.
So is Bart on or not? Well.
I don't know.
He was there just a minute.
Ooh, that's a tough question.
He usually shows up for roll call and then you're not sure after
That's
that.
true.
He was there.
Well, it says he's on.
Okay. Oh, there's more too.
His computer's on.
Okay. We did the,
We did the
call
roll.
to order and we have a quorum for the meeting. Are there any amendments to the agenda or a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I moved to approve the agenda.
second. Thank you. Lanny Smith moved and Jody Walker was a second. All in favor, please raise your hand.
So may I
Yes,
ask
unanimous.
a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Do we have an official secretary since Nancy's not here?
I'm assuming Scott, well, she will,
I'm taking notes.
and she will.
Okay.
Yay, Scott.
Well,
Yay,
Okay, just
Scott.
asking.
And there is a video.
there is a video too.
Yes, she
She
plans to
usually
watch.
listens to the video as well. Okay, so the issue that we're dealing with today is the complimentary guest pass policy. And Scott sent out a staff report for this meeting, so I'm gonna let him start and then I'll pick up right after him.
Sure, thank you. Hopefully you can all hear me. You've already said this meeting is to discuss and reconsider amendments to the complimentary guest pass policy. We've talked for quite some time. There was a committee, the Board Affairs Committee reviewed guest passes, complimentary passes, et cetera, over the last 9 to 12 months and came up with, I think, what they thought was a reasonable solution at the time. Which I think we're all aware of what that solution was at this point. It became evident during our last board meeting, though, that those policy changes weren't widely supported. So Director Bachelor requested that we have a work session on this matter.
Hear you, so.
All right.
Okay.
And that's why we're here today. So, and we had said during last week's meeting that, it seems appropriate to bring this discussion back to a work session and have the board discuss it with some comments, of course, from the members. So there's a couple options, of course. I mean, the current policy is that a single only annual guest card shall be issued to sole owner GVR members for no fee where there is no other person residing in the GVR household. The Board Affairs recommendation was to limit the current policy, and it was originally 30 days. We were treating that as guest pass policies for use annually. This recommendation eliminated the loophole of having unlimited use and accommodates the guest pass needs of the majority of the complementary of guest holders. We did put on this statistic. You remember this from the Board Affairs Committee and the FAC Committee this last year, but This was done when the discussion was going to be limiting it to 30 swipes, but there were 108 cards that were above 30 swipes, for 30 days rather, in the year. So, we discussed, okay, so that means 108. Some of those 108 are probably abusing the card. Others are just very active in using their cards, which is a good thing. We had thought that 30 days would increase to 60 for the complimentary guest card as well, because the board made a decision to amend the policy on the guest pass policy and extend that from 30 to 60 days. And we had initially said we were going to treat the complimentary guest card and the guest card essentially the same. One is free and one isn't free. And so we had, at the staff level thought, okay, that means all these cards are going to go from 30 to 60. And then, we learned again at the last meeting that no, that's not acceptable to some. And so here we are. We want to talk about those options. The other option that we've floated around for quite some time is just to eliminate the complimentary guest pass altogether and instead adopt a policy that allows single property owners to acquire daily, weekly, or even monthly guest passes for their guests free of charge and on an as needed basis, as another option to throw into the mix. So as I tried to say, this isn't an exhaustive list. These are just some options that we've talked about over the last year. And so this is a summary of, to some degree, what has played out over the last year. And here we are. So I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Yeah.
So what is unique cards with swipes? I'm not sure I understand what that means. If the
Yeah,
1,083 unique cards with swipes, what does that actually mean?
Is that ones with names or pictures on it?
unique card with swipes. This is a unique card is an individual card. So there were 1,083 individual cards.
But again, the language is so, it's like cards and IDs and guests, what kind of card? Are you-
It's the complimentary guest pass card.
The one that's in
I
question.
still don't understand what,
The one that's in question. So we use the term card and pass interchangeably and probably
Right.
shouldn't, but a card is a pass and a pass is a card.
I still don't understand what that means.
So this means there were 30 there were,
1,083.
I'm sorry,
1,083.
there were 1,083 of this total. So total 3,212 complimentary guest cards may or may not have been activated in 2025. There's that many out there right now, 3,212.
Right.
So to make it clear, you were talking about single homeowners,
That's all we're talking.
3,212 single homeowners that have cards, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, those people that had qualified for their complimentary guest card, there are that many out there.
Okay.
And so you're saying of those 3,200,
Right,
1,000 of them have been used.
correct, 1,083, that's right.
Okay,
And we know,
1,000 have been.
well, wait a minute.
1,162 haven't been
Let's
used.
clarify here
Yeah.
that if we could, because if you go to the bottom of that list, it shows active cards. Total cards doesn't necessarily represent active cards. So
Right, I
we're
get
trying to
that.
compare to active cards. Active cards, active cards with 0 swipes, you've got 1,062. I misunderstood that. But unique card swipes, 1,083. So 1,083 cards have been swiped
Okay, get rid of.
over the
word
last
unique.
year.
Can we get rid of the word unique and does that,
That's fine. Yeah,
thank you.
this is just, for your help. And if it's not helpful, get rid of the word.
Understanding it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Clarify.
I agree.
Bart has a question.
Bart has it.
Bart,
Scott, you seem to be referring to some.
Can't hear you, Bart.
Yeah,
Bart, we can't hear you.
Really? No,
Doesn't look like he's on mute.
He's not.
No,
not on mute.
I don't think the math actually works, but,
we don't have any of those in there.
right, I don't think the math.
Can you hear me
You're
now?
not muted on our end.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not muted on my end either.
no,
He said I'm not muted on my.
It doesn't
I'm
look like
not
he's
muted
muted
on my
because it would
end
have a
either.
red.
Yeah, it
button at
doesn't
the
look
bottom
like
of
you're
his
using
screen
a
if he's
third of the
muted
people
on
who
his
had
end.
these
So there's
cards used them in
something, there's
1 year.
something wrong.
Is that what you're saying?
This group,
It's probably on our end.
1 to 30 swipes.
Okay, so, okay,
They're included in this group.
okay, so could you add this, okay, so
So it doesn't.
that's
They would
2,000.
never have.
They're not gonna
They would
have.
never have.
So it's 2/3, you're saying 2/3 of the people who
Well,
were
the
given
figures that I
cards used
used in
them,
my email.
right?
was that
Because you're saying, is that right? Because these were
These will
swiped,
never
at least ones.
They're
These
never
were
gonna be the
swiped.
same.
I didn't
It's generally the same.
So
We don't know how many of these people are in this.
Can you hear me now?
well, that's why this.
Let's see what I can do, Bart.
I don't understand.
That's why it doesn't make sense in the math.
Maybe we can call him.
We know that these have 0.
Yeah.
These two.
See if Marge can talk.
You can-
No, it's just.
Marge, can you talk so we can see if you're muted or not on this end?
2/3 of the people used it.
Yeah, hello, hello, hello.
See, we're not hearing you either.
Well, I hear everybody else and
Right.
I hear
I think
Bart.
you have to add these two.
Yeah, and I hear
That's
Marge.
what I'm saying.
As well.
And then subtract from this.
Okay, go to somebody else and
Okay.
talk, who's working that.
Okay,
Otherwise, we'll be here all night.
yeah. Does anybody else have a question for Scott based on what he
This is-
just said?
This is the only people that use the card. 975 out of
Yeah, that's
3212.
what
These haven't used the card.
Well, so
Is there
maybe I
any
can
lip
go ahead and
readers
start
there?
on my presentation and we need to get this up and we
All
can
right,
hear
so use
other
that
people,
number.
then we can let them
So
speak on
1/3
Zoom.
of people have used the card.
So let me go ahead. I sent out a 2-page email to the board members so that they would understand where I was coming from as a single homeowner representing single homeowners. And the most important thing to me was the 4th paragraph down where it says the change to the CPM was to equalize 2 GVR cards to all properties because married members received 2 GVR cards for the same price that a single property owner paid, but received only 1 GVR card. We worked on that. I was not on the BAC at the time, but I was a very interested party that went to every BAC meeting at the time. And we worked for 3 years, 2017, 18, and 19 to get that changed, and it became effective January 1st of 2020. And what that meant was that in our CPM right now,
Hey,
based
Marge,
on the
can you still
page
hear me?
1 at the top, shows
Yeah.
there were 2 things that were given to single
I can hear
homeowners,
them
and they-
too.
And they,
You know, Scott seems to be referring to some data, but I don't know where that data is.
I thought I was the only.
Apparently the volume is too much for me to figure out.
Okay,
Sorry.
so let me,
That was hilarious.
That was good.
so let me continue on here. So on page 1 that showed the CPM, we had 2 items added. So a single property owner had 2 choices. If they were living with somebody, a significant other, or whatever you wanted to call them, somebody, a committed person, an ID card was issued for no fee to that individual who was a sole owner, and upon proof of residency, that could apply to someone that was living with you. No questions asked. Again, item B was a complimentary guest ID for a single only annual guest card shall be issued to a sole owner GVR member for no fee where there is no other person residing in the with the GVR member. Those 2 items came as a package because a single homeowner got a choice between those 2 things. Both of them were good for 365 days. And now we're looking at something different, but I want to follow kind of my train of thought on this. Now we're looking at something that says okay, those people that are living together are okay because they're a couple. But what is being said is those of us that have a single guest card as a single homeowner is trying to be limited now to 30 days for the year instead of 365, which was the intent back in 2020 when it became effective. There hasn't been a change up until now. And just to keep in mind, this all went through other boards before you, and it will probably come up again, other boards after us. But right now, this is something that I have worked on since I became a member of GVR, and it's important to me, and maybe that's why I sound angry. Scott says I sound angry. I tried not to sound angry, but maybe I am angry. I don't know.
It's the microphones.
Maybe that's what it is, I'm.
Well, because you've taken a personal interest in it.
I have a personal interest in it because I am a single homeowner. And that's how I got involved in GVR in the first place, was because married people were getting 2 cards for the same price that I was paying for 1 card. And I had a lot of single people that were saying the same thing. Only those people that I talked to way back then said, well, cut my dues in half because they're getting 2 cards and I'm only getting 1. And we considered that all with the BAC when we were making a recommendation. So that is why I am saying to you, the intended value was whether you're living with somebody or you are getting a guest card for yourself, it was for 365 days. There was no criteria that said, oh, we're going to limit you to a number of days. Not at that time, but now it's becoming an issue. Just a second, let me finish, please,
Sorry.
Beth. I'll take questions when I get done, but right now
Sorry.
I need to go ahead. In Scott's staff report, he indicated here that it was a loophole. I don't consider it a loophole because it wasn't intended to be a loophole, but he's intending, or he's suggesting that it's a loophole for both annual guest cards and complimentary guest cards.
Okay.
And I will speak to that as well. But the comment here is allowed unlimited and generic, not assigned to a specific guest, use of both guest cards to make it easier for staff to enforce and to maintain membership integrity. I think we maintain membership integrity. And I put further in my letter, I put, if staff is not able to enforce it, and I agree they are not, we have had many discussions over this, but it is not for this board to tell a single family or a single property owner, well, we're going to reduce you because you're the problem. And I'm saying, no, I'm not the problem. If you can't enforce it, then this board needs to give you more staff. And we need to do whatever we need to do to increase dues to pay for that staff if it's unenforceable, if we don't have enough people. We have not done that in the past. But please do not tell us single members that we're the problem, because it is both annual guest cards and single complimentary guest cards, and it's not everybody. There are some in both groups that are abusing, but not everybody in both groups. But I would like to make a point. If anybody in here has a spouse and they should lose that spouse, then the remaining spouse becomes one of us. We're a single person. You don't get to do something different than what we're doing. So you need to understand that if you lose a spouse, you are supposed to turn in your card. And I know I asked Chris that one day, how many people who lose a spouse during a year turn in a card? And she said, we don't know.
They don't.
And there's no way for them to know which people are dying.
Right.
There's no way for them to know that.
Right.
So that's another loophole. In the annual guest cards that we just changed in January, we voted in September at the November board meeting based on what we had been discussing for a whole year. And that was, everybody had to have a guest card, whether it was annual or it was a complimentary, it didn't matter. But in November, it did not speak to the complimentary guest pass for single people. It only spoke to the annual guest cards. So we voted on that and we agreed with that. It's in the minutes. Come along January, also in November, by the way, we have done a survey as a part of the year-long study that we did. We had a survey that Scott told us he had advertised over eBlast in August, was it? I think that's what you said. It went out to all the members in August on the eBlast. It also was in our November meeting book. The results of that survey was also in our November meeting book. So when we took action in November for the one pass per person, we knew what we were doing. And we had 2,100 people respond to that survey. So we knew they were interested, but that was only a few people off of the number of people that vote every year. So when we did that change to give the annual guest cards for guests, that means we have, and I had talked to Chris about this a long time ago, and I'm assuming it's still true. We sell about 1,000 to 1,100 annual guest cards. That means if we just use the 1,000 figure, that means we have 4,000 guest cards out there floating around that can be used. They're available to use. That will be handled the same way that they've been in the past. Single people don't even have 4,000 people. We have about 3,300 single members voting households. We have, what did I do? Scott and I have a little bit of different figures only because I took the figures that were available in August and he's taking current figures. So back then we had 3,967 single members. 668 were people who lived together. So that counts for 2 single people. So that's 1,336. We had 2,631 single homeowners who were getting a complimentary guest card. So the total came up to 3,967. So I rounded it to 4,000. That's close enough for me. That meant out of 23,500 total members, we represent 17% of the total membership. If I go back and I use those figures for voting households, we are 23.74% of the voting households. What I am saying to this board is if you adopt a rule that you're going to cut us back to 30 uses or even 60 uses per year because staff can't enforce it, then you are discriminating and you're penalizing single member ownerships. And that's just simply not fair. I'm asking for this group to adopt the same policy or to leave in place this that's been there. And not change it. And I have to disagree with Scott's third item on here, eliminate the complimentary guest pass and instead adopt a policy that allows single property owners to acquire daily, weekly, or even monthly guest passes for their guests free of charge and on an as needed basis. That means we have 4,000 people that have to come in and get a card every time we want to use it. That's not fair.
Can I just ask? I would like to hear from people. How do you use this other card? You've got 2 cards, one of them, and one's not attached to for 365 days. I'm just wondering how you actually use it.
No, they are attached for 360.
Right now, they're not. They are.
Right now, the old policy is in place. Right now, that complimentary guest pass is good for 360.
That's what I said.
Madam
That's what
Chair.
I just said.
I think from a point of order, the member comments are at the end.
But
After we talk through it.
Can we ask the question? Because I don't understand. And part of what I need to make this decision is because to me, these are theoretical people. And if you live with somebody in your house right now, you already are covered and that person gets an extra pass, even though they're not related.
Correct.
So I'm trying to understand why you need the extra pass and what you actually, in fact, have used it for. That's all. Is that okay?
I don't think it matters what they use it
Well, it
for.
does to me. In making a decision.
All right. Sue, do you want to respond to that?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm a solo owner and
I use my extra guest pass if I have one guest staying with me. So that means I might have a girlfriend that comes and stays with me for 3 days.
Right.
Or I might have my brother that comes and stays for 2 months or 3 months with me. I use that guest
Okay.
pass. For example, yesterday, I just bought a guest pass, an annual guest pass, because I have 2 guests arriving on Friday. The middle of March, I have 2 more guests coming. And then in April, I have 3 guests coming. So I can't use my complimentary cardholder ID. That is a terminology you're using that's another issue. There's so much conflicting terminology
Right.
here. that I think
Confusion in the
people get
terminology.
confused.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying you have a brother who comes and he sometimes stays for 2 months and this pass is helping his.
Yes,
That's for
Okay.
one person.
Okay, thank you. Just want to know. Thank you.
Jeff,
Thanks, Sue. Thanks for letting us speak on this. So I want to back up. I'm not sure what the terminology is, but I can tell you that my understanding is my property as a single owner is title tied to GVR. And I'm responsible as that owner to pay a fee every year. And I, as a single owner, therefore have access to GVR facilities as that owner. Am I correct?
correct.
So there's a monetary value assigned to my fee every year. What I am not clear on is why my fee is the same as people who are married. So if I want to use a GVR facility every day of the year, I have paid for that privilege. A married couple has paid for that privilege as well. So that means either spouse can use every GVR facility every day of the year. Am I correct in
You
that?
are correct.
Okay, so why is it that so there's a monetary value associated, they're not paying twice the fee, right?
Right,
They're paying the
correct.
same fee that I'm paying.
Right.
So to your card, there's nothing complimentary about that extra card. I've paid for that card because I pay that annual fee. Am I correct?
Well, that's what
No, am I
took
correct? I
effect
paid that fee.
2020. In 2020, we made this change
Yeah, I
to
don't care.
the,
Okay, that's fine.
to the
That's
CPF
fine. But
to
there's
allow that.
nothing complimentary about it because I've paid for that. Is that correct? Whether I use it or not is irrelevant, right?
my opinion, maybe Scott has a different opinion.
Careful what you ask for.
Right?
I'm finished. I have.
Okay.
It all goes back to the way the documents were set up in the bylaws originally. The ownership and deed requirements are all tied to the deed of the house. So it doesn't matter if there's 1 person or 5 people living in the house. And I think some were surprised to learn that if you have 5 or 10 people on deed, they all get a card too.
That's right.
But I can't disagree, but that's wrong. You're right, because there's clearly greater use and overusage of those people, and they're still paying the same $545.
They have to pay additional card holder fee. That's.
Not if they're on title.
They're on title.
If they're on title.
If they're on title, everybody on title is entitled to a membership card, and that is inclusive of the $545 the household pays.
Yeah.
I mean, in a perfect world, and maybe we want to look at this at some point, could it be switched so that we're paying as individuals? An individual, 2 household, 3 household persons. I think that'll be a big lift because all these houses are deed restricted, and I'm expecting that the attorney would have to do a lot of work on changing all those documents. But that is unfortunately the cards that we have. That's the card that, we've been dealt. It is per household.
So that's where the equity discussion starts and ends. Until you can assign a monetary value to each entity's contribution to the GVR fee, use has nothing to do with it. And this whole idea of abuse and what constitutes overuse, right? Like if I want to go to the GVR facility, not only 365 days a year, but I want to go to it twice, 365 days a year. Why should I be limited? Why should the household with two people, spouses, why would they be limited? At what point does the whole idea of you have to buy now access for, in my case, I have an ongoing bet with my family. I've been here 5 years now.
Yes, it's okay. That's why they.
I have a bet going on with my sister that I told her, look, you have to come and visit me once. So when I die, you know where I live, right? And you can help take care of the house. But this is part of the reason. So my sister happens to have a lot of kids, right? If she comes, they come, right? But at what point is it that I have to, who paid this fee for multiple years now I get to pay not only the fee, but now I get to pay a guest fee to actually have people come and visit me who are never going to come and visit me.
But that is kind of.
But that's a different issue.
Yeah.
That's why I say this all equity goes back to the individual monetary requirement for each contributing person to that title ties fee. That's where you have to start. Any other discussion until you answer that question is moot. You guys are never going to sort this out.
We may not be able, certainly not today, be able to sort it out. But the reason that I brought it up at the board meeting was because I had sat through a year of the committee. And the committee voted to go with one person per guest pass, and that was on the annual. But we also discussed limiting both the annual and the complimentary guest pass to 30 days or possibly 60 days. The only thing that came up when we voted in November was the annual guest cards. The reason I brought it up was because I didn't get to vote because I'm not a member of that committee. I'm not a voting member of that committee. So my vote wouldn't have counted, but I objected to cutting the single people back to 30 days. When that happens, and Bart did this with the special meeting that we had, he wanted the annual guest card to be for two people, not for one. The board had voted for one. He brought it to the board meeting, said, well, I'd like it for two. Ultimately, they went with 4. So we didn't change a thing. Other than they're going to limit it to a maximum of 60 days for use. I think that's wrong. My opinion is it's wrong, but then when you come back, then I brought it to the board because that was the last stand. If it goes through the committee and the board is the final vote, then I had a right, like Bart had a right, to bring up this item and discuss it as a board. And if the board hasn't been keeping up on the committee and what the committee has done, then the board might vote against me again. I wanted to make sure that the single people understood that they were going to lose 100 days. Because back in 2020, when it became a part of the CPM, we got 2 cards, the same as a married person. And now I felt that was being taken away from us as a group, and I object to that. That's why I brought it up at the board meeting. That's why we're having this meeting. Jody.
Okay. Being somebody that's worked with regulations, reading the policy I think is important. And I believe it goes to intent and consistency. I pulled up the CPM and looked at use of GVR facilities under paragraph 1.2.1, identification cards, subparagraph A4. It reads, if a GVR property is owned by a corporation, LLC, or similar entity, an identification card shall be issued up to 2 officers. And that is, to me, is consistency with issuing 2 cards per property. I believe that is an indication that that was the intent of issuing cards on the property. Just Jody's take. I think that is kind of clear. It's not identified to a deed. It does state here, it does not go to just the names on the deed when when IDs are issued.
Okay.
A spouse of a GVR member may be issued an ID card unless the spouse has disclaimed interest in the property. It does not say the name must be on the deed.
True. And that's why that item was there before I even moved here 11 years ago. And it says a spouse of a GVR member shall be issued an ID card unless the spouse has disclaimed interest in the property. So there are many people, I'm sure there are many people, who, whether it's the wife or the husband, take the property in their own name. This thing says, if you're a spouse, you get an extra card. They did not give us that accommodation for people who are living together, only if you were a spouse, and it is still in the CPM today. So it allows for a spouse to get a second card, but doesn't allow for someone living together to, and didn't even think of that. But this was done by prior boards, and all I'm saying is I want it at least for this item. I don't care if we change the name from complimentary cardholder ID and complimentary guest ID to keep it from being confusing. But please don't take days away from me, even though I personally am not using them. To me, it is a broader feature of close to 4,000 people that are being penalized, and that is what I'm fighting against. Nellie, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I do appreciate Scott handing out a kind of a crypt, because I do think our problem is kind of definitions of terms going all the way through the committee process. But as we look at the ones that are the membership cards, to me, what's important is that they require a photo ID and a unique number. So from a secure, and to me, they're on the deed, they're a trustee on the deed, or the corporation is in control of the property, and they are living at the property. And so it's not it could be a spouse, it could be not a spouse. It's people who are living at the property are eligible for different cards, and you have a photo ID and a unique number. So when we got into looking at the issue of abuse, and the member survey really emphasized the fact that they were concerned about abuse and looking at enforcement. We were looking at how to really structure it. And so the complimentary card, when we looked at it from a BAC standpoint, had it treating it the same as far as from a time limit standpoint, but having it be free. To me, the issue is that the guest card is a visitor card. So it's not the same as a person living in the property. And I tend to go with the BAC recommendation because, and I appreciate the fact that it was dealt with in 2020, perhaps differently than we may go in the future. But we know that we have issues of abuse, and looking at across all the categories on the guest cards, annual and complimentary, this was one way of dealing with it. We had discussions about requiring a photo ID on the cards, and some people in the CEO presentation that I was at Canoa Hill said we should have photos so we know who's in our facilities. We didn't go that far, and so to step back and to say, and we can't do anything about it. The membership cards are tied to the deed. People who live at the house. And guest policy, the guest cards, from my standpoint, should be treated the same as far as the day limit, 30, 60, or 60 days, and have it be free for the households that are single. So I support the BAC recommendation that came from the committee.
Anybody else? Did Scott March or did Barton March leave?
I think Marge is on. Do you see her?
I don't see her.
Oh,
There she is.
Can we hear you, Marge?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, can I say something?
Yes, you can.
Kathy, I think you have a major conflict of interest, and I think you ought to stop talking and back off and let us go through this. I know you probably, because I don't think we have a problem. I think we need to either give all of the people who should have the second card a chance to go in and get a free card like in the document that we got today, or we just leave it alone and you use the card because it's not really a guest card. You know, to me, it's not a guest card. It's an extra card for the house. And I don't know, because you can't put a picture on it, if that makes it a guest card, but I think Scott, you said it did, but is that right?
Well, all the guest cards say guest card on it. So whether it's the annual guest card, weekly guest card, or complimentary guest card, they are guest cards. And so the guest's name and photo are not on those cards because they're guests.
Can we do what is in our document today? Can we just say, and Kathy, think about whether you'd be happy with this. What if we just said you don't get the limited guest card or a guest card? You just, when you're gonna have company, you go in and you get a free one. And if they're gonna be here for a week, you get them a free week. If they're gonna be here for 2 weeks, whatever. I mean, can we do that, Scott?
Well, that was one of the options that we listed in the report. Sure, you could provide a free weekly, daily, or even a monthly pass on an as-needed basis as just an option to consider.
Let me make a comment with regards to when we had, when we were talking about the annual guest card, and Bart objected to having only one person, because then he would have to go in and get it, because his people came as couples to visit. So if the card was only good for one, then he personally would have to go in and get another card, and he objected to that.
Right.
I object to it for singles having to run to the box office every time they're going to have a guest to have to do the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. Beth?
I'm gonna disagree with Marge, because Kathy has every right to 2 cards for her house as everybody else here. I happen to be technically a single person. I've been with my significant other for more than 20 years. He is not on the deeds for reasons of our personal business, not anybody else's. He has a complimentary cardholder ID. There's no reason why Kathy, because she is single and doesn't have a significant other, why she is not entitled to the same. She's paying the same dues that I am paying. And she shouldn't have to run and get a new card every time she has a guest, whether it's 3 days or a month, 6 months or a year. She is entitled to the card same as I am. And they should both be free, because we're paying the same as everybody, every 2-couple household.
Right.
I do disagree with how the annual guest card is handled, because you can have 4 guests and they can all be in different places, but you've only got 1 card for those 4 guests. So it's impossible for staff to take care of.
Right.
But we should not be punishing the people that are single and saying, no, you're going to have to come in every 30 or 60 days and get another card because you're not married or your significant other isn't on the deed. That's not right.
Well, and when it comes to pictures on a guest card, I had a girlfriend come from California, and she came on a Tuesday, and I took her around to a number of places because she's looking for someplace else to move where it's more social than where she does live. She meets the criteria. She is better than 20 miles outside of GVR boundaries. She did not even have to use my guest card because the facilities that we went through an open door. Did not require a swipe. Las Campanas, you can walk in the lobby door. I just showed her what I could show her. We didn't go into we didn't use the pool. We didn't use the facilities at all. Did the same thing at Santa Rita Springs. Showed her some of the different rooms that had different clubs at it. She would not have been here for very long. She got here at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The offices closed at 4. So I would have had to take her down to get a picture on a guest card that we weren't even going to use. But Nellie is saying that we should have, but that's something that we discussed in BAC, and it was something we discussed. You cannot put a criteria on somebody you can't enforce, and that is what is taking place. I appreciate that staff can't enforce it, but that's not the fault of single homeowners. That is a fault of us not giving enough money in the budget to pay for the number of people we need to enforce this.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because I have a problem with the semantics too and the names for everything. But so on your primary card, it has your picture on it.
Yes,
So your complimentary card doesn't have your picture on it.
no, but it is a guest of me, it has my name on it.
Just like guest cards.
The complimentary cardholder ID does have a photo.
Yeah.
But that's for you because your
Different.
person is living in your house with you.
Yes.
That person has a photo ID. But because those of us that are not living with somebody don't know when our guests are going to be coming in, we do not have a photo ID for those guests. But the way the complimentary guest card, and it states it's a complimentary guest card, authorized guests of, and I'm going to say
We have-
Kathy Bachelor, because that's me. It says valid for one guest per visit. So as Sue said, she has people coming in next week or next month. So she went down and got an annual guest card because she's going to have more people than that one card will cover.
Well, that's what everyone has to do.
Everyone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's no big deal.
No, don't say it's no big deal because
It isn't, because you're saying she has 4 people coming. Even if we left it the way it was, she still only has one. She's still gonna have to go down and get an annual guest pass or a
Right.
monthly guest pass because she has more than one person coming. So let's just talk about the exact thing we're trying to change and not the,
Whole system.
it's getting too complicated.
Can I interject here?
Yes, please.
We interrupted Andy. She was on a train of thought.
Was she?
Well, yeah, was she?
Well, she may have thought.
I'm
but sorry.
sorry, you may have
Well, no, I was just wondering, would it be helpful at all that if that extra complimentary pass had your photo on it? Or they could track it either way.
They
If
can
it-
track
if it's-
it. There's a
If
number
it's
on it.
being abused, you can track it. That's
Sure.
how,
Then you would
you
have
can
to,
track everything with,
Right.
as long
then
as
she
you
would have
have
to
the
go down and
card.
get a card every time she has
No.
a guest. Yes, she would. So this week it was her girlfriend. Next week it might be
somebody
a
else.
different girlfriend.
Could be a
And that
brother,
should
could be a
another
sister.
card with another picture.
I don't think that's what Candy.
That's not what Candy was saying.
That's not what Candy was.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's get back.
You
It
can
would still
track back to me
you.
because my
It's got her name on
complimentary
it.
guest card
Right.
says guest of Kathy Bachelor.
Yes.
You can track it back
So
to
if
me.
there's abuse, it can be called on.
That's
Hey,
right.
Kathy,
Yeah.
your card's being abused, we're gonna
That's what
suspend
I'm
it
trying
or
to
we're gonna
say.
revoke it.
What staff could do is if I use that card for 6 months, every day for 6 months, they could call me and say, has your card been stolen? Because it looks like you have a guest every day for 6 months. I can then say, yeah, I have a guest staying with me who is trying to decide whether or not she wants to buy a house. She is my guest. I'm allowing her to use my guest card, but there's no abuse there. She is allowed to use my guest card because she is the only person that is using. my
Right,
card.
but the point I'm trying to make is that I think that if there's any signs of abuse or whatever, is that the card that's being used so many times, whoever card it is, can be tracked back
To
to
somebody.
who,
To
yeah,
somebody, sure,
Yes,
sure,
absolutely.
absolutely.
that's what I'm trying to make.
So
I'm sorry.
my question is, there's no, abuse? I mean, somebody else could use this card. You could give it to a friend
Yes.
and they could use it every day. And then, what are the rules that GVR can come back and say this has been abused?
There are none.
That's what we're getting at. And that's what we've been trying to get at with the guest pass. There have to be some rules that say, okay, you have used this pass too often, you abuse this pass by giving it to somebody else. That's the question that I have, that I'm stuck on,
And that comes back to me because the original guest holder, that comes back to me, they can come back to me as the
right, they
original.
come back to you and they say, but who gets to say they used it too much? What's too much?
Well, they're collecting cards now because single guest card people are leaving them in their Airbnbs or
Right.
whatever. And that they are collecting those cards when people come in and say, but I want to join a club while I'm here for 6 months renting this
Right,
house.
okay, that's
No,
not the
that's
issue.
part of it. It's part of it being abusing the guest card. It is part of it. The rules of a guest card is that they have to live 20 miles outside the GVR. Go
Scott
ahead.
has a
Go ahead.
question, too.
No,
Well, I just have some comments, but go ahead. Kathy would like you to go first.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like us to stay within the complimentary guest cards. This discussion is not about the annual guest policy, which has been solved. We've gone down that road and we've made the decision. And I think in the interest of time, we're spending way too much time on the topic that we've already made a decision. We're talking here today about the complimentary guest card. I have a question for Scott, a technical question. If I'm reading your numbers correctly, 3% of the total cards were swiped more than 30 times in 2025. Is that correct?
Is 3% 108?
Over 32,
Okay,
12.
then that is correct.
Okay.
So I have a.
Hey, we just, I want to finish.
Yeah.
Is that finished?
Yes.
So 3% of the total population, whether they are active, inactive, wherever they are, 3% of the total complimentary guest cards. Out of that 108 that were swiped more than 30 times, how many were swiped more than 60 times or 100?
Yeah, I don't have that right now. I think we did provide that to the BAC, but I don't have that in front of me right now.
The issue of abuse. So let's be clear about abuse. Every person who has a card in this room could lend it to a friend and it can be abused. I'm not here for 6 months of the
I
year.
don't have any friends, so that would.
I would lend you mine because you're my friend.
So you do have a friend.
So
That's true. I want, thank
so
you.
so as a board, we have not taken the time to define what is an abusive number. What is abuse? What does that mean? We have not given our management the tools to determine what abuse is. So we leave it up to management, and in their good faith, they make those decisions. And Kathy, you pointed out that sometimes someone comes in with a tenant card and say, I'd like to do this, and they're caught off guard.
Sure they are.
Right? So as far as abuse, we as a board, maybe next year or at some point in time, we're going to have to make a decision. What is abuse? And we will rely on our management to give us some kind of parameters of what that can look like. Correct? Everybody agree? Okay.
Good.
So let's just deal with the complimentary guest cards. And it doesn't sound to me like the complimentary guest card is an issue of abuse. It really doesn't sound like it. To me, it sounds like it's actually used quite, it actually sounds to me, based on these numbers, it actually sounds like it's used responsibly by the single homeowners. That's how it sounds like to me. So I think the question before us as a group here is, do we keep the card? We have to decide on one of the three items that the briefing note has presented to us. I think we've gone over this thing and we've beaten it to death.
Yeah.
So I recommend that I'd like to make a motion that.
You can't make a motion.
I can't make a motion? Okay. So
Make the motion, I'll second it.
we all get a chance to talk. Okay, so I think at some point in time, I think we've beaten it to death. We have the stats, we've had the discussion. We just have to make we have to make a recommendation for the board to approve or whatever it is. Whatever it is we have to do out of the work session. Because this is just going round and round and round and round.
So if
I haven't said anything yet. Okay, don't say anything that I
And
just
there's
said.
a reason for it.
Steve, I just called on you.
Oh, thank you. All right, Scott, I really appreciate the data you gave us. And I have a different take on the numbers that Lanny gave you. Of the 3,212 guest cards, 66% were not used in 2025. So only 34% of the cards, which was 1,083, were actually used. Of the 1,083, 108 had more than 30 swipes. So those could be subject to more research to figure out if indeed they could be abused. All right. And that percentage would be 10%, which I think is a high number. And if everybody remembers, that's the reason we changed the annual guest card to 60 days from 12 months so that we could get a handle on the abuse.
But you're
All right.
you're changing the numbers based on the ones that are being used, not the total amount of cards that are out there.
I'm taking, excuse me, Jody,
Okay.
I'm taking, based on the number, the data that Scott gave us, that he says 1,083 cards have been swiped in 2025. He said 1,162 cards have 0 swipes and 967 cards, they're unknown whether they were active or inactive and have 0 swipes. Okay, so of the 34% of the cards, 1,083, 108 had more than 30 swipes. And we don't know how many of those have more than 60, but I'm sure that staff could give that to us.
They did, yeah.
But it's obviously more than 3%. And I just want to remind everybody, that's why we changed the annual guest pass to 60 days so that we put a limit on the amount that people were using. Now, a guest is defined as a temporary visitor. If we have a visitor that's here for 2, 3, 4 months, is that considered temporary?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Or do they qualify under a different card?
Why?
All right.
Why?
Well, they do as with a member. Like if I'm a member and I have two people in my house, all right. I would get an additional card. They would become an additional card holder and I would have to pay for that. That fee is going up this year. I think it's $145. And next year it's going to go up to 170 or 175, eventually going up to 250. So this is a complicated issue. And I do believe that we might be making it even more complicated. But if you look at the numbers, I think we have to decide. I mean, I personally think I'm leaning towards mirroring this policy so that it's close to the annual guest policy, and that if someone's here for more than 60 days, I don't consider them a temporary guest.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Beth.
I just want to say, and I think it was Laney that was talking about the numbers. It's not just about the numbers. It doesn't matter if your guest uses the card every day for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. It matters as far as abuse goes. Are they truly a guest? Do they live in Zarvita or Quail Creek or within 20 miles? Are they someone who should not be using the card? Kathy's guest is from California, so they're a real guest. So it doesn't matter if she goes every day or twice a day or whatever. She can do 6 different clubs during the day and she can do that. But it's not just about the number. So if you think, oh my, this card's been used 500 times, is it really a guest or is it somebody that's just really active? And all you have to do is make a phone call and say, hey, you know about this? Is this to your friend down in Tubac or Amato? Somebody in Quail Creek, somebody that lives next door, or is it honestly a guest? That's all you gotta do is make a phone call.
Stop.
If we know who it is.
Do you know who it is?
If somebody's got a complimentary card, we may not be unaware that,
But it says on here, this card is attached to Kathy. It says.
oh, it is, sure. But just like Kathy said, we only learn that it's shown up on an Airbnb counter because that tenant comes into our office and says, hey, I'd like to sign up for a class. And we go, oh, well, you really need a tenant card. You shouldn't be using a complimentary card. So unless that type of situation reveals itself, we may not always know where the abuse is happening. In that case, yeah, that's a violation of the CPM because a tenant should have a tenant card. That's what it says, not a complimentary guest card or an annual guest card. So we're not always aware until it reveals itself. We just know these numbers. We know that we've got X amount of swipes, and we assume most people are honest and following the rules, but we know that there are examples. I wanted to say I completely understand the equity concerns and the challenges. I wonder if there is a problem again with the definition of the complimentary cardholder ID versus the complimentary guest.
Yeah.
We have been defining a guest as temporary.
Yeah.
And as Beth was saying earlier, how do we quantify that? Well, the BAC recommended quantifying it at 30 days. 30 days was reasonable for a temporary guest. The board subsequently changed that to 60 days as a reasonable amount of time for a guest. It sounds to me like complimentary single people aren't interested in the guest definition because you want to be able to use that card much more frequently than temporary. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
No, I think what these
Is that not
people are
true?
here for, and what I am going for, is to leave it alone. As it stands since 2020, single homeowners had a choice between two different cards. And that was the first time they recognized that people were living with people and should have a second card, just like a married couple. And I think it, based on some demography type things, more and more people today are not getting married, but they are living together, and that's their choice, and I'm okay with that.
Well, they get a complimentary cardholder for that if they live in the house.
If you read what I sent out and it had the CPM attached to it, the single homeowners had a choice between a complimentary card holder or a complimentary guest ID, those two. That's in the
Bev's
CPM.
partner is a perfect example.
And Bev's partner is a perfect example. So,
Kathy.
just a second, go ahead. I want to stay, I'm recommending to this board that you leave it alone, otherwise you're penalizing single homeowners and taking away that card. Okay, I'm sorry, Jody.
So what I'm hearing is single homeowners want a +1 and use it at any given time that they have a guest in their home.
As long as they follow the rules.
No, let me finish, okay? And that, generally, a good percentage of them don't have anybody use it more than what it is, but they want it available 365 days of the year, and they want to be able to use it at that given time that I pay the same amount as a two-party person, like that LLC gets 2 cards, I should be allowed to get 2 cards, so I'm treated equal as everybody else, and I get to use it when I have somebody here. And I think that, and I don't see nothing wrong with it personally myself.
However, you will see in both the CPM and the bylaws, the definition of guest is somebody is from 20 miles
Right.
outside of boundaries.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
We're not asking for a change in that. We are asking to keep our guest card, so we don't have to run in here every time we're maybe gonna have a guest and get a guest card. You don't want 2,600 of us running into the box office every time we need to have a guest. This was intended in 2020 to give both issues, the complimentary card holder or the complimentary guest. It gave the homeowner 365 days. It did not say, we're going to limit the guest people to 30 days or 60 days or even 90 days. That guest card is our card to use as we like, just as Jody just said, just as all these people are understanding the same way. I would like it to stay just the way it is. It doesn't require a change. I don't think that because we're not able to enforce this policy, that it is a responsibility for a single homeowner to have to make the payment for it, to be penalized for it. My way of looking at it, increase the budget, hire people to enforce it, and when people have to pay for it out of their pockets, then it will stop. It will all stop. Or do more of a,
Suspension.
not correspondence, but,
Code of conduct.
more of a notification to our members on an ongoing basis. These are what the rules are, because not everybody reads the CPM when they move here, and I know that, I didn't when I first moved here.
I can't believe that
That's
they
true.
wouldn't read CPM.
That is,
Oh, my God, that's.
We've sent quite a few updates, especially since the guest pass
You have.
policy has been reviewed
And I
through the
understand.
e-blast recently, and we'll keep doing it.
And I
Because this is an informational piece.
right, it's getting information out to the members of all parties, all homeowners, that this is what the rules are. You may not have read it when you first moved here, but this is what the rules are. And if you are not following these rules, there's a good chance we're gonna take your card from you. We're not asking for the rules to be changed. We're asking to be treated equally to a married couple. That's all.
I agree with Randy. I personally don't see much abuse according to the numbers, but I think we beat this as dead horse. We're not gonna vote on this today, and it's after 3 o'clock. Why don't we go to member comments? Unless anybody else has something more to say. And unless anybody else on the board, that's just my recommendation as to Madam Chair.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment to make on the board? I'd like to get to this.
Okay.
So if there's nobody else that has a comment, then I will go to the members.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just looking at the whole picture, there's a lot less usage from the single owners than the two house owners, right?
Yes.
So why is this being made such a big deal? Okay, why aren't we getting usage for complimentary usage? You know, I mean, it's not used that much according to the numbers, okay? There's only 3,000 something solos. What are they about that? We pay for that. The usage is being used by people that have two people, house owners, okay? So look at the usage, okay? It's minimal. Yeah, there's some abuse. Let's see the factual numbers. What homes are abusing that? Pull out those factual numbers. You've got data according to all these hours that are being spent on this. There's data there. Let's look at the numbers, but the usage is not there from solo owners.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I just
Yeah.
had one. So
I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
just had one comment.
Go ahead, Mike.
So I agree with Steve on your 10%. And I had that as my original number as well, the 10%. But, you know, there's two ways of looking at it. 10% that do it over 30, but there's 90% that don't.
Yep.
So it all depends on potato.
Yep.
How you're gonna look at it. I tend to look at, there's 90% of the people that are quote, using it less than 30%, 30 times. And as I've mentioned a number of times, we have not defined as a board, what is abuse. We just haven't. So 30 may be a lot to one person, 60 may be a lot to another, 10 could be a lot. We haven't given Scott and his team that definition. And quite frankly, they've done a pretty darn good job of working in ambiguity for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm with you, but I think our next step as a board is to give them the budget so that they can purchase the technology that can help us define what abuse is and then put in the numbers in so that they can do that.
Didn't we just do that with the limiting the guest pass? I mean, wasn't
No.
that an attempt to say abuse over 90 days is abuse?
60.
I did.
60 days. I mean, isn't that what we did?
Anyway,
When we
I'm
changed
with
the
you.
guest pass?
You're right there. That's why we did that. That's why we did that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see
Said
it.
the people that are here.
Yeah.
My name's Marilyn Arkin. I was widowed in 2012. I have been paying for my part of the system until eventually I figured out there's a guest pass so that I could have them come. There are separate numbers for the guest person on it, so it is trackable. I'm assuming with technology, it's a different number than what I have. However, I am confused now, because at one point, I thought you said there, have a member, and then you have a complimentary guest ID, and then you have the one that's being limited possibly with 30 or 60 days.
That's the annual
That's it.
guest.
That's like an
And is the annual one is what I do not have at this point,
Correct.
which I need to go in and change, because this came back a
No,
long time
no,
ago.
you don't need to change it because this card is good for one person per visit. An annual guest card is good annually for the whole year.
And
It's
this is what it
85
should be.
No, no,
Paid for.
no, and it's for a maximum of four people as guests. So if you have four family
Yeah, we
members
need to
come,
get rid of that.
you need to have that.
It's
Can
just
my
driving me
brother
crazy.
comes and stays with me for 2 months?
Single household.
This is okay for him. Okay, so if he abuses it, the numbers are on there.
Right,
So.
we can tie it back to you.
Right, good. So I don't see where there's a problem with the abuse, because you go to the numbers, you go to the person, bada bing, you got somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't see where there's a problem. But there is a problem if you take away this second, my
We're not taking.
death person.
Right.
In fact, when I did change it, that was the first time I cried when I handed in his
Yes, yeah.
card.
Right.
Now, it's a very moving, hard thing to do.
Sure.
It is.
And to then realize at the time that you can't have your brother come, blah, 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 and he can't stay he's only can stay 30 days, is ridiculous. So he is a guest. And so this is what I think you should come to an agreement, because it's an emotional thing for somebody who's single, who has, not whether they passed or they divorced or whatever it is. It's an important thing that should be left alone. We should have our own, and we should have the second one because we paid for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeff?
Okay.
I'm starting to Lanny, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
So this has been a interesting conversation, and I'm grateful, Kathy, that you surfaced this and brought this committee together. And over the course of the discussion, the idea of equity has emerged ever so slowly. And I would like to emphasize to you folks who are on our board, it is your responsibility to define equitable policy, period. That is your job. You are continually still mixing in this idea of enforcement and abuse. You're mixing it up. You need to have a clear, equitable policy before you take on anything else. Now, I have a question. I wonder if Scott has an idea of where this whole idea of abuse is coming from. Is it being suggested that there is a huge amount of money that GVR is losing annually because of abuse?
No, I don't think it's a money issue. We have examples again, I've mentioned a few of Airbnbs or rentals where a complimentary card has been left for that tenant to use. We have examples of people that aren't qualified guests, out on the pickleball courts, for example, and they're able to gain access, or they come into the gym or the facility because they have a complimentary guest card, because it gives them access. We don't know who they are. We just know that card is being swiped. We have no reason to necessarily think it's being abused until somebody on the pickleball court, for example, says, hey, did you know so-and-so isn't a qualified guest and they're here every day?
Yeah.
And then we can do a member check. And that's where we try to get into the membership matters thing, where we'll have staff go out and try to improve enforcement by doing a card check. And there are times when people will turn around because they see we're doing a card check. So we know what happens. And really, that was the whole basis for this discussion, because we would get the calls from members saying, hey, why can't you enforce your policy? And we said, well, wait a minute. Our policy is kind of open-ended here because there's nothing that says that person, other than, they're not a qualified guest, can only use that card so many times. It was the same with the annual guest pass. It was the same issue. So when we say it's open-ended and it's not assigned to anyone specifically, those are generic cards that we have seen on Craigslist and we have seen on eBay, because it gives people access to GVR facilities. And unless, again, it comes to our attention, we're not able to track it. So, I think, given the circumstances, what we've been dealing with for years is doing the best we can. When we hear something, we do what we can. When we learn about it, we contact the property owner, we cut the card, we do whatever we have to do if that person isn't qualified. We'll send the member a warning letter, say, hey, do you happen to know the rules here? And if not, here they are. And, if this continues, this is technically a code of conduct violation.
So
because
I say, first of all, your first responsibility is to have an equity-based policy, period. The second piece I want to comment on is if you want to talk, I've had this conversation, 3 million times since I've been the president of the pickleball club. And it is simply this. I play pickleball at another facility out of state. And I tell you what, every time I walk into that facility, somebody asks me for my identity and they ask me if I'm a member and they verify it or I don't go in that facility. GVR has to cut fish or cut bait. You either decide you're going to enforce your policy or you're not. And if you're going to enforce a policy on abuse, you're going to have to resource it. Bottom line, end of discussion. Don't bring single people and their title tied ownership with their guest cards. That is not part of the discussion. So seriously, that's your job as a board, in my opinion.
Are there any, Sue?
So as an example, an option to this would be, I pay $545 a year as a single, and you're saying now I'm limited to 60 days.
No, I didn't say that.
That's what you're discussing. So I'm saying, all of you people who are married or have a significant other, your other person in your household is limited to 60 days as well. Because you pay $545.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
That would be equity.
That's
That would be
That's what
equitable.
we're considering.
Sure. No, I think I get that. I completely get that. I want everyone to understand when we started down this road, it wasn't to be nefarious or try to stick it to the singles. It was, how can we provide a reasonable policy? And that was the goal. That was the goal. In terms of our facilities, when you're talking about your club, there is one entrance into that club.
Right.
And you walk by a screen and a monitor and you scan in and there's someone sitting behind that desk that looks at your picture that pops up. Our facilities are like Swiss cheese. You know this. If you compare us to Sun City or Sun City West, they're much more like the club where everybody goes in one entrance. We have parking lots all around our buildings. They were designed in such a way for access from all different facilities. We've had these discussions internally about how we can do what you said, because that'd be great. Then we can really monitor. That means we have to funnel everybody in, which is really inconvenient. We tried it at Las Campanas, in case you remember.
Yeah.
We had an incident at Las Campanas. We clamped down and said, okay, everybody's got to come through the front door. People came unglued.
Yeah, there's 6 entrances.
So the goal here was never to ruffle feathers. I think everybody went into this with the idea of how can we find a solution, a reasonable solution to what is a problem.
Okay, let me make one comment before I call on you. Scott is right. trying to determine how we could, how the committee, how they could determine to have a solution for this problem. But that's when I said, wait a minute, you're going to penalize the single people by taking away days that they are entitled to, based on what the current policy is. The current policy allows us to choose one or the other. And because I have to choose the other, I'm entitled to that card for the whole year. I have the same guest pass card that I got when I came here 11 years ago. I have not turned it in. I have not given it up. It is the same exact card that I had when I got here 11 years ago. So if you limit me to 30 or 60 days, then you are penalizing me. And that's why I brought it up as an issue. Because as an absolute single property owner, not including people who are significant others or not on the deed, but they get a card because they are a spouse, I am the only person on this board that could say, wait a minute, you're taking that away from a very large group of people. I don't want to lose that. And the reason I brought it up at the last board meeting is because it was on the agenda. And I had a right to bring it up at that point as a board member, because that was the final decision was coming to the board to approve it or not approve it. And I wanted to argue against it. I'm still arguing against it. I'll argue against it till the day I die if you try to take it away from me. That's, go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I totally agree. Okay.
No, I hear you.
I have two homes here in Green Valley, and I pay for tenants on my rental place, and they pay for their cards.
Sure.
Why are you taking this away from us, okay? Go somewhere else and look at the abuse somewhere else.
This lady here.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted to bring up, and I think you clarified it, when you read from the rules. I am not the owner of my house. My deceased husband owns my house, and I am not on the deed. And that's just something for you to be aware of. I also have 19 grandchildren and 3 foster children. So I have a lot of guests coming and going. And this card, if you're gonna limit me to a few months and talking about the running back and forth to get guest cards, it's quite a job.
Yes.
So anyway, I do think singles should not be discriminated against because our husbands died.
Thank you. And this lady over here.
I'm Donna, and
Donna.
I am a single homeowner here, and I feel the same way. I feel that by limiting the amount of time that I can use my guest card, you're policing me. And it's an inequity for us. It's like you're pointing the finger at us saying we're the abusers. And I can assure you, I'm not. And I bet anybody else in this room here who is going to fight for the equity of this is not abusing their card. So, I really believe that it's discrimination is what it is when it comes down to it.
So Lanny, I think you're correct. We're beating this to death, but I'm assuming it will come up at the next board meeting for approval one way or the other. So we'll just see how the board is going to vote, because I will vote no if it's anything other than leaving it as it is.
Thank you.
Sue?
I have a very simple. Just
Hang
wanted-
on. She's got the floor.
Has this been approached legally with your lawyers?
Certainly.
So this change in policy, you talked to.
Sure. I mean, the attorney, honestly, the attorney goes back to exactly what I said at the beginning. Membership is tied to the property. It's tied to the deed. So from the attorney's perspective, it's irrelevant. From an equity perspective, if you're on the deed, you're entitled to a member card. And that's really it. Yeah. So if you're on the deed, you're entitled to membership.
So if you're 2 people on that deed.
They
then
get
you
2 cards. That's
If
right.
there's only me on the
But
deed,
That's right.
I get one card.
People living in.
That's what the policy says. I just want to clarify, please. I'm not saying I agree with it or don't agree with it. I'm stating a fact. This is what the documents say. This is how it's been interpreted since, when GVR began as an organization. So this is nothing new. This is how it has been interpreted. So again,
Looking at it.
But doesn't it also state that if there's just a name on the deed and they're married, that spouse gets a card? So
Yes.
that gets it 2 cards.
sure.
So I guess I just don't understand why we're just not doing 2 cards for a single household.
Well, we are, but see that, but let me specify, Scott is correct based on the starting of time, with GVR. However, we changed that, not this board, it was a different board, and I wasn't on that board at the time.
We heard, we
Okay,
know that.
okay, but in 2020, we specified
We know that.
in the CPM, there was a change. And we're asking that it not be changed, that's all.
Right. We're aware.
Can I just summarize or try to? I mean, I think we're all aware of the issues and the options at this point. I mean, I even laid out the options in the staff report. Leave it as it is, follow the BAC recommendation to list it to limit it to 60 days, or provide free passes on an as-needed basis. Those are really the 3 options, I think, under consideration. I haven't even heard that there's interest in the 3rd option, frankly, at least at this meeting. So again, we're planning to take this back to the board for approval on the 18th and some type of decision. So, you know, my perspective, if there's really nothing else to add, let's take this meeting and move it forward to the 18th.
Okay.
Will do.
Okay, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn. First.
No,
I'll second.
I was waiting for you. You were
I would like to thank everybody that came to the meeting today. I so appreciate your coming. Thank you. Voices heard. Thank you, Jeff.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is yours. No, I don't write like that. No, that's Xerox on there. I got my copy. Well, I already have one at home.
That's a surrender.
Was that me? Was that me?
Do I have? Complimentary. No, I don't. I have it in there.
It's a shame that we.
Okay, so there's.
Doesn't sound like it's.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's 10%.
Well, the abuse to me is when somebody who shouldn't have whether it's one time, 850 times. I mean, sometimes I use my pass 4 or 5 times a day.
You could use it.
That's exactly right. And that was
And that could be abused right there.
Everybody come to the forum tonight and check out the new candidates at 4 o'clock at Snow Hills, right? Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
This is the back door, right? The back door.
The meeting.
No, can't. I know that, but it doesn't say that.
Right.
It says, but that's physically.